From the very beginning, we need to understand that God did not create us to simply exist. He created us with purpose, with destiny, and with a plan far greater than anything we could imagine. There is a divine blueprint, a grand design that is not only about our survival, but about our thriving. In fact, it's not just about what we do in this world, it's about who we become. And this divine design, this magnificent big idea began before the foundation of the earth, stretching through eternity. It is a reality far beyond our human understanding, but one that shapes every moment of our lives. God's big idea is not confined to just a single human life or a single moment in time. It is the overarching plan of the Creator to bring heaven to earth through humanity. He did not create us to be weak, broken beings scrambling to survive in a chaotic world. No, He created us in His image with the ability to think, to create, to innovate, and to influence. We are His representatives, designed to steward the earth, and we are made to reflect His glory in every aspect of our lives. But here's the surprise. God's big idea is not just about our comfort or happiness. It is about restoring the fullness of His kingdom on earth. His desire was not just for us to inhabit a broken world. He didn't create the earth to be a prison or a struggle. No, God's big idea was to bring heaven to earth, to make the earth a place where His will is done just as it is in heaven. And the plan was always to do it through us. We have been given the most profound and powerful tool, our minds. Our intellect, creativity, and vision are not just to solve problems, but to bring transformation. We are called to unlock the potential of the world around us, to steward and shape it in ways that reflect God's original design. You are not just a product of evolution or random chance. You are a divine idea, created with intent, designed to think like God, act like God, and rule like God. Every great invention, every discovery, every revolution in history began with the simple understanding that we were made to bring change, to bring order to chaos, and to manifest God's kingdom on earth. And here is the truth. If we are not living to make the world a better place, if we are not striving to bring heaven to earth in our families, in our communities, and in our work, then we are falling short of God's big idea. But what does that look like in practical terms? It looks like empowerment. It looks like understanding the magnitude of the influence you have, not just as a member of society, but as a leader, a creator, a catalyst. Your life is a seed. It's not meant to remain small and insignificant, but to grow and multiply. Every action, every choice, every word you speak has the power to create an impact far beyond your imagination. The key to unlocking God's big idea is embracing the truth that you are more than what you see. You are more than your job, your title, your status. You are a part of a divine plan. You are not a byproduct of the world's circumstances. You are the agent of change, the answer to problems that the world hasn't even realized exist yet. But here's the shocker. God's big idea is not about personal success. It's about kingdom success. It's about realizing that your life is not your own. You are part of something far greater. You are part of a divine mission, a mission to restore dominion over the earth, to reclaim what was lost, to bring people back into relationship with the Creator. Now let me challenge you with this. What are you doing with the gift of life that you've been given? Are you living in alignment with the big idea? Are you co-laboring with God to see His will manifest on earth? Or are you stuck in the distractions of your own life, only focused on survival, comfort, or what's in it for you? This is where we must rise above the ordinary, above the distractions, and embrace our divine calling. This is the essence of God's big idea. Each of us living with purpose, living with passion, living with the understanding that we are a piece of His puzzle. The greatness that you seek is already inside of you, waiting to be unlocked. It is time for us to step into our true identity, to live beyond the limits of our circumstances, and to be the manifestation of God's glory in the earth. Remember this, the big idea is not just for us to sit back and wait for heaven. It's for us to bring heaven to earth through our thoughts, through our actions, through the way we live and the way we lead. Let that truth empower you and let it change the world around you. When you embrace God's big idea, you will find a life far greater than you ever dreamed. The best is yet to come. Yeah. Divine purpose and plan, God created humanity with a greater purpose beyond survival, designed to reflect His glory and bring heaven to earth. Humanity's role as stewards. We are God's representatives, made to think, create, and influence. Entrusted with the responsibility to steward and shape the earth according to His original design. Empowerment through the mind. Our intellect, creativity, and ability to innovate are divine gifts, meant to solve problems, bring transformation, and manifest God's kingdom on earth. Kingdom success over personal success. God's big idea is not about personal achievements, but about living in alignment with His kingdom and working towards restoring dominion on earth. The gift of life as a seed. Every individual has the potential to grow, multiply, and create an impact far beyond themselves, shaping the world around them in powerful ways. Living beyond limits, embrace your divine calling and identity, rise above distractions, and bring heaven to earth by living with purpose, passion, and understanding of God's big idea. God's creation of humanity was not an accident or a random event. It was a divine decision rooted in purpose. He didn't simply create us to exist, to go through life as passive bystanders to the unfolding of time. Instead, He created us with intention for a specific reason and placed us on earth to fulfill a mission that was part of His greater plan from the very beginning. Before we were even born, God had already established a destiny for each of us, an eternal purpose far beyond what we can immediately perceive. When God made man, He created us in His image. This is a profound and transformative truth. To be created in God's image means we are not just physical beings, we are spiritual beings with the capacity for intelligence, creativity, and governance. He created us to be more than just living organisms or mere survivors in a world full of uncertainty. We were designed to be His ambassadors on earth, to carry out His will and to reflect His glory in all that we do. God's plan for humanity was far more than just filling the earth with people. It was about a community of beings who would walk in divine purpose, partnering with God to fulfill His big idea to establish and expand His kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. This is the foundation of our existence. Our purpose is tied to a much larger divine narrative, and we are all part of that greater plan. The reason this understanding is so essential is because it transforms the way we view our lives. If we think of life merely as an event to experience, we miss the depth of the calling upon us. God's plan is not just to have us survive, it is to have us thrive. It is to have us be active participants in shaping the world, not as passive observers. When we realize that we were created with a divine purpose, we begin to understand that every part of our being has been designed for a reason. We were not designed to simply take up space in the world, but to bring something meaningful, something powerful to it. The first step in recognizing God's big idea is to understand that we are not here by mistake. We are not here to be ordinary, mundane, or even average. We are here because God has a specific, intentional purpose for our lives. This purpose is not based on our career, status, or material success. It's about understanding who we are in relation to God's eternal plan. We were made to be an active participant in bringing His will to earth. And that's where true fulfillment lies. When we recognize our divine purpose, everything changes. The way we look at our challenges, opportunities, relationships, and even setbacks shifts dramatically. Life is no longer just about getting by, but about understanding how our lives fit into God's larger story. We begin to see every moment as an opportunity to fulfill the divine calling on our lives. Whether it's through our work, our interactions with others, or our personal growth, we are always participating in something far greater than ourselves. The profound truth that we were created with purpose not only gives us meaning, but also empowers us. It allows us to live with confidence, with direction, and with a sense of responsibility. When we align ourselves with this truth, we tap into the power that comes with understanding our purpose. We are not living for ourselves, but for something far bigger. Ultimately, understanding that we were created with divine purpose is liberating. It helps us rise above the distractions of life, the trials and the obstacles that may appear. Our value is not based on external circumstances, but on the fact that we are part of God's grand plan. And when we step into this purpose, when we fully embrace who we are created to be, we become powerful agents of change. Agents who can bring heaven to earth, who can fulfill God's big idea, and who can live a life of profound significance. When we talk about humanity's role as stewards, we must first understand that being created in God's image carries an immense responsibility. It is not just about who we are, but what we are meant to do. From the very beginning, God entrusted us with the care of His creation, not just as passive beings, but as active participants in His plan to bring order and beauty to the earth. God didn't simply create us to occupy space. He gave us dominion and authority over all the earth. This idea of stewardship goes far beyond just managing resources. It encompasses a holistic approach to how we live, interact, and influence the world around us. In the book of Genesis, when God created man and placed him in the Garden of Eden, He gave him the responsibility to tend and keep it. This wasn't a casual instruction, it was a divine mandate. To tend and keep means to nurture, to cultivate, to protect, and to make sure that the creation flourished in alignment with God's will. This was the original assignment given to humanity: to govern, to steward, and to ensure the earth remained a reflection of God's goodness. God's creation wasn't just a resource for us to consume, it was a gift. And He expected us to honor it, maintain it, and develop it to its fullest potential. The concept of stewardship means that humanity has a role that goes beyond personal gain or individual success. We were not created to live in isolation or simply to serve ourselves. Our purpose is to govern, to rule, and to make the earth a place where God's will is manifested. And this goes beyond the physical world. It includes relationships, the environment, society, and every aspect of life. We are not here just to use the world, but to shape it and nurture it according to the vision God had when He created it. When we embrace the idea of stewardship, we begin to understand that our actions have consequences, not only for ourselves, but for the world around us. How we manage our resources, how we interact with others, how we treat the environment. These things all matter because they reflect our responsibility as stewards. We are meant to cultivate a world where peace, justice, love, and care for creation flourish. In every interaction, we should ask ourselves, how are we stewarding the resources, relationships, and opportunities entrusted to us? God gave us the ability to think, create, and innovate. These gifts are not for our own personal gain, but are meant to help us fulfill the role of stewardship. The talents, skills, and abilities we possess are divine gifts designed to bring transformation. Whether it's through entrepreneurship, art, leadership, or innovation, we are called to use our gifts to impact the world for the better. Our responsibility is not just to manage the physical world, but to create a legacy, to leave something that improves the lives of others, and ultimately to align the world closer to God's vision. But the question arises, how do we know if we are fulfilling our role as stewards? It starts with a deep understanding that the earth and everything in it belong to God, and we are caretakers, not owners. We must recognize that everything we have, our resources, time, and talents, are given to us as tools for stewardship. When we live with this awareness, we make decisions that honor God's creation and lead to a more just, compassionate, and sustainable world. Stewardship is not a one-time act or a single event. It is a continuous responsibility. It requires us to look at every area of our lives and ask how we can use our influence to bring glory to God. Whether we are managing our homes, leading in the workplace, or serving in our communities, we must always remember that our role is to reflect God's character in every aspect of life. When we live as faithful stewards, we honor God's creation, fulfill our purpose, and play an integral part in God's plan to bring heaven to earth. Ultimately, being a steward is about living with intentionality, recognizing the sacredness of our responsibility, and understanding that our actions today have a direct impact on the world of tomorrow. By embracing this role, we fulfill God's vision for creation, and we become active participants in bringing His big idea into reality. The power of the human mind is one of the greatest gifts we've been given. Our intellect, creativity, and ability to innovate are not random traits or mere byproducts of evolution. They are divine gifts intentionally designed to serve a greater purpose. From the very beginning, God created us with the capacity to think, reason, and problem solve in ways that set us apart from all other creatures. Our minds are the tools with which we shape our world, our lives, and even our destiny. When we recognize the power of our thoughts and the potential of our intellect, we unlock a vast resource that is central to fulfilling God's big idea. The human mind was created with the capacity to think creatively, to imagine new possibilities, and to create solutions. This is not just about personal achievement or individual success. It's about being aligned with the Creator's original purpose for humanity. God gave us the ability to think beyond survival, to think beyond basic needs, and to reach for something greater through our minds. We are able to participate in God's work of transformation, whether that's by inventing new technologies, discovering innovative solutions to global challenges, or even building systems and communities that reflect the values of God's kingdom. The Bible says that we are to renew our minds and transform the way we think. Romans 12:02. This is not just about changing our thoughts on a superficial level. It's about understanding that our minds are instruments of power that can influence the world around us. The way we think determines how we act, how we lead, and how we interact with others. Our thoughts shape our behaviors, and in turn, our behaviors shape the world we live in. If we want to see a different world, it begins with the way we think. Our thoughts are the seeds from which our actions grow, and our actions are the building blocks of the future. Innovation and creativity are not just reserved for a select few. Every person has been equipped with the ability to think differently, to solve problems in new ways, and to contribute to the betterment of society. Whether you are an artist, an entrepreneur, a teacher, or a stay-at-home parent, your mind holds the potential to bring about change. God has given us minds to think deeply, to analyze situations, to understand challenges, and to come up with solutions that we couldn't have imagined before. The power of the human mind is limitless when it is used in alignment with God's big idea. But the key to unlocking the full potential of the mind lies in its proper use. It's easy to get distracted, to focus on the trivial, or to let negative thoughts take hold. However, the mind was created for a higher purpose. It is meant to be a tool for building the kingdom of God, for making a positive impact in the world. To do this, we must guard our thoughts and intentionally direct our minds toward things that are pure, noble, and aligned with God's will. When we focus on what is good, right, and just, we tap into the power of our minds to bring about the change that God desires. We also need to understand that the mind is not just an individual tool, it is a collective one. When we come together as a community, sharing ideas, collaborating, and combining our intellectual resources, we become a powerful force for change. Innovation thrives in an environment where minds are united in purpose, where diverse thoughts are brought together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Whether it's in business, education, or social impact, the power of collective thought can transform entire communities and nations. Our intellectual capacity also gives us the ability to learn, adapt, and grow. We are not meant to remain stagnant in our understanding. Our minds are designed to evolve, to stretch, and to expand so that we can continually improve the world around us. Whether we are learning new skills, studying the complexities of nature, or seeking wisdom in our spiritual lives, the mind is the vehicle for growth and transformation. Ultimately, when we use our minds in alignment with God's purpose, we begin to fulfill His big idea. We tap into the power to create, to innovate, and to bring transformation. The mind is not just a tool for personal success, it is the instrument through which we fulfill our divine calling and contribute to the larger mission of bringing God's kingdom to earth. The more we understand and utilize the power of our minds, the more we can participate in God's big idea and make a lasting impact on the world. When we talk about kingdom success over personal success, it's important to recognize the profound difference between the two concepts. Personal success is often measured by how much wealth, fame, or status one attains in their lifetime. It's about achieving individual goals and enjoying the rewards that come from those achievements. However, kingdom success is entirely different. Kingdom success is about aligning one's life with God's divine plan, prioritizing His will above personal ambitions, and working toward the advancement of His kingdom. God's big idea for humanity goes far beyond individual prosperity. While personal success may seem appealing in the moment, it pales in comparison to the eternal significance of living in alignment with God's purposes. Kingdom success is not defined by what we gain for ourselves, but by how we serve and contribute to the greater good of humanity and the glory of God. It's about being part of a larger divine narrative where we understand that our lives are not just for us, but are meant to impact the world in ways that bring God's will to fruition. When we shift our focus from personal success to kingdom success, we begin to see life through a different lens. We understand that we are part of a bigger story, one that transcends the temporal and reaches into eternity. God did not create us to live for ourselves. He created us to live in service to His kingdom, to contribute to the restoration and expansion of His dominion on earth. This means that success is no longer measured by what we accumulate or how many accolades we receive. True success, according to God's big idea, is measured by how faithfully we live out His will, how we serve others, and how we steward the resources He has entrusted to us. One of the key aspects of kingdom success is the idea of stewardship. We are called to steward the resources, time, talents, and opportunities that God has given us. But stewardship is not about personal gain. It's about using those gifts in a way that honors God and benefits others. When we prioritize the advancement of God's kingdom, we begin to see that our resources are not ours to hoard or use selfishly. They are tools to bring about God's purpose on earth. Whether it's wealth, influence, or abilities, everything we have is meant to be used for the greater good, to make a lasting impact for the kingdom. Kingdom success also requires a shift in how we view our work and our contributions. In God's eyes, every action we take, no matter how small, can have eternal value when done in alignment with His will. Whether you're a teacher, a business owner, a parent, or an artist, your work is not just about earning a paycheck or gaining recognition. It's about how you use your position and your influence to reflect God's love and to make a positive impact on those around you. In the kingdom, every role is important because every role contributes to the bigger picture of God's plan for humanity. The challenge is that the world often promotes personal success as the ultimate goal. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of material wealth, social status, or personal recognition. But when we focus on kingdom success, we learn that true fulfillment and purpose come from seeking God's will and serving others. Jesus Himself showed us the path to kingdom success. He didn't seek personal glory or wealth. He came to serve and to give His life for the good of others. His model of selflessness, humility, and sacrificial love is the ultimate example of kingdom success. Furthermore, kingdom success involves a mindset of eternal perspective. It requires us to look beyond the immediate rewards of this world and focus on the lasting impact of our actions. When we live for the kingdom, we are investing in something that will last for eternity. Personal success may fade away with time, but the impact we make for God's kingdom endures forever. Ultimately, when we choose kingdom success over personal success, we are choosing to live a life of purpose, significance, and impact. We recognize that our lives are not our own, but are part of a greater plan to bring God's will to earth. Kingdom success is not about accumulating wealth or recognition. It's about living in alignment with God's divine purpose, using our gifts and influence to bring about transformation in the world, and serving others in a way that honors Him. When we embrace kingdom success, we fulfill God's big idea and we experience true fulfillment in the process. The concept of life being a seed is a powerful and profound truth that speaks to the potential within each of us. Just as a seed contains everything necessary to become a fully grown plant or tree, so too does each individual carry the potential for greatness, impact, and transformation. God has placed in us the seed of life, a divine purpose, and the ability to multiply and make a lasting difference in the world. But just like a seed, this potential can only be realized if it is nurtured, cared for, and allowed to grow. A seed has everything within it to fulfill its destiny. It is not lacking in any essential quality. It may appear small and insignificant at first, but inside it lies the ability to grow into something powerful and transformative. The same is true for us as human beings. When God created us, He placed within us the potential to grow, multiply, and fulfill His purpose. Our purpose is not something that we need to search for externally. It is already embedded within us. The seed of life that God has planted in us is designed to bring forth fruit, to shape the world around us, and to contribute to His big idea for creation. However, just like a seed, this potential does not come to fruition on its own. It needs the right environment, the right conditions, and the right care to grow. A seed cannot grow if it is ignored or neglected. Similarly, our potential will not be realized if we do not nurture it. We must create the conditions for growth by investing in our personal development, cultivating our talents, and aligning our lives with God's purpose. This may involve seeking wisdom, learning new skills, developing our character, and pursuing opportunities that help us fulfill our calling. The process of growth is not always easy. Just as a seed must break open and push through the soil to reach the light, we too must face challenges, obstacles, and difficulties in our journey of growth. Growth often involves discomfort, struggle, and perseverance. But it is through these struggles that we develop strength, resilience, and the ability to overcome. Just as the seed must push through the soil to reach its full potential, we too must push through the challenges in our lives to reach the destiny God has planned for us. Furthermore, just as a seed grows to bear fruit, we are called to multiply and bear fruit in our own lives. The fruit we bear is not just for our benefit, it is for the benefit of others and for the glory of God. God's big idea is that we would not only grow and fulfill our own purpose, but that we would contribute to the flourishing of the world around us. Our lives are meant to have a ripple effect, touching others and making a difference in ways we may not even. The fruit we bear may come in many forms, through our work, our relationships, our service to others, or our creativity. But ultimately, our fruit is meant to glorify God and to contribute to His kingdom. In the same way that a seed grows to its full potential by being in the right environment, we too must place ourselves in environments that encourage our growth. This might mean surrounding ourselves with people who inspire and challenge us, finding mentors who can guide us, and being in situations that push us to grow and develop. We must be intentional about creating the conditions for our growth, whether that's through prayer, study, reflection, or action. One of the most remarkable aspects of a seed is that it doesn't just grow for its own benefit. The seed is meant to reproduce and multiply. In the same way, the purpose of the life God has placed in us is not just for personal gain. We are meant to take the gifts, talents, and opportunities we have and use them to bless others and expand God's kingdom. Just as a tree produces more seeds that can grow into new trees, we too are meant to pass on what we have learned, to invest in the lives of others, and to contribute to a cycle of growth and multiplication. Ultimately, life is a seed that is meant to grow, multiply, and bear fruit. Each of us has within us the potential to make a lasting impact on the world around us. But we must be willing to nurture that potential, face the challenges that come with growth, and be intentional about creating the conditions for our success. When we do this, we align ourselves with God's big idea and fulfill the purpose for which we were created. Just as a seed, when planted in the right soil, grows into something beautiful and powerful, so too will our lives, when nurtured with purpose and care, grow into something that brings glory to God and transforms the world. Living beyond limits is a call to step into the fullness of who we were created to be. Too often we live confined by the limitations that society, circumstances, or even our own beliefs place on us. These limitations can take many forms: fear, doubt, discouragement, and the belief that we are somehow not capable of achieving something extraordinary. However, God's big idea for our lives is to break free from these confines and step into the limitless potential that He has placed within us. Living beyond limits is not about ignoring reality, but about recognizing that with God, there is no real limitation to what we can accomplish when we live in alignment with His purpose. The first step to living beyond limits is to understand that limitations are often self-imposed. While external factors such as lack of resources, education, or opportunity may seem like barriers, the true limits we face are often rooted in the way we think. If we believe that we are limited by our circumstances, then we will act as though we are. But when we recognize that God is not bound by the same limits that we are, we begin to see things differently. God, who created the universe and everything in it, is not constrained by time, resources, or human understanding. And when we live in His strength, we are capable of achieving things far beyond what we could ever do on our own. When we live beyond limits, we stop defining our potential by what we can see in the natural realm. Instead, we begin to see with spiritual eyes. We recognize that the things that seem impossible in the natural world are actually opportunities for God's power to be displayed. Just as He parted the Red Sea, fed the multitudes with a small amount of food, and raised the dead, God has the ability to make a way where there seems to be no way. And He wants us to tap into that same power to do the impossible. This doesn't mean we'll all perform miracles in the same way as the great figures of faith in the Bible, but it does mean that we are invited to live in such a way that we step beyond what we can do on our own and allow God's limitless power to flow through us. Living beyond limits also means not allowing the past to dictate our future. So many people are trapped by their past mistakes, failures, and missed opportunities. They believe that their past defines who they are and limits what they can accomplish. But the reality is that God's grace is greater than any past failure. In Him we are made new. We are not bound by our history or our shortcomings. When we embrace the truth that God has already forgiven us, equipped us, and called us to something greater, we begin to break free from the limits that the past has placed on our future. In addition, living beyond limits requires a shift in perspective. It means looking at challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth and development. Every difficulty we face is an opportunity to trust God more, to rely on His strength, and to grow in character. When we face challenges with the mindset that they are opportunities to grow, we begin to see them as stepping stones rather than obstacles. This mindset shift is crucial for living beyond limits, as it allows us to persevere and continue moving forward even when things get tough. Another aspect of living beyond limits is understanding that God has placed in us everything we need to succeed. The Bible tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that God has given us everything we need for life and godliness. This means that we are equipped with the resources, gifts, and abilities to accomplish the tasks He has set before us. We may not see these resources immediately, but when we step out in faith and obedience, God opens doors and provides what is needed. Living beyond limits requires us to trust that God will supply everything we need to fulfill His purpose for our lives. Living beyond limits also means stepping into the fullness of our identity. So often, people live with a small view of who they are. They see themselves through the lens of their mistakes, their insecurities, or the limitations imposed by others. But when we understand who we are in Christ, we recognize that we are more than conquerors. We are children of the Most High God, and we are capable of far more than we can imagine. Our identity in Christ is not based on what we have or haven't done. It is based on who He is and what He has done for us. Ultimately, living beyond limits is about embracing the truth that with God, there are no limits. When we align our lives with His big idea, we step into a life of purpose, passion, and possibility. We stop settling for mediocrity and begin to live boldly with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. When we choose to live beyond limits, we embrace our divine calling and step into the fullness of God's plan for our lives. In conclusion, God's big idea for our lives is far greater than we could ever imagine on our own. He created us with purpose, equipped us with everything we need, and entrusted us with the responsibility to steward His creation and fulfill His divine plan. By embracing the potential within us, our minds, talents, and creativity, we can rise above the limitations that often hold us back. We are called to live beyond personal success, focusing instead on kingdom success, where our lives contribute to the greater good and the expansion of God's kingdom on earth. When we view life as a seed, recognizing that we are designed to grow, bear fruit, and multiply, we begin to see our potential in a new light. And as we break free from the limits imposed by the world and even by ourselves, we step into the fullness of who God created us to be. Our lives become a powerful force for transformation, not just for our own benefit, but for the world around us. As we align ourselves with His big idea, it's time to step out, live boldly, and fulfill the incredible purpose God has set before us. The possibilities are endless when we embrace His vision for our lives, and we play an active part in bringing His kingdom to earth.